I'm going to show you some images of previous year's projects. I'm not going to show you everybody's turning in like 8 images or whatever. I'm not going to show you all the images because that would take forever, just some sort of representative ones. You shouldn't feel like this is sort of restricting what it is that you can make. These were just things that people made that I thought were interesting and sort of represent a breadth of ways that you could approach it. The whole reason that we have this, proposal and meetup and whatever, is to try and figure out what it is you want to do and how we can sort of like make that something that will be successful and practical. Like you're like, oh, I really want to make a thing in Paris. You're like, well, you can't go to fucking Paris, so you can't do that. Yeah, like push yourself, make something creative, make something interesting, right? That's what this is about. Yes, coronavirus blows goats, but right, we can make something out of that, right? We don't have to be totally, constrained by that. Every photo project you walk into, every assignment you are given by a photo editor, every shoot, like location that you go to, there will always be something that goes wrong. And part of what your creativity is not simply the images that you make, but how you solve those problems. It is a huge, huge part of being a successful photographer, is meeting those problems head on and getting something done. Go through here. This is, I don't have the students' names, by the way, on here because I wasn't sure if they wanted their names being spread out there. So as far as you know, they're just anonymous. This was a project that was kind of fashiony, kind of art-y. There's this piece of tool the fabric, not the personality, that is sort of being wrapped around these figures, and then they're being photographed in these very stark black and white environments. Super beautiful image. Seeing that one makes the first one then make a little bit more sense. Here we have this, again, the tool and this very strong light that's on it. It makes a little bit more sense as an image when we don't have this like black background, so that you can actually see sort of the boundaries of it and understand the scale of everything. But there you go. This one has this beautiful little moment of this star filter light that's going on there. Love that. This was a project thinking about sort of the body and insecurities around the body. So these are parts of people's bodies that they felt insecure about. And then the photographer has, in post-production, I think probably in Photoshop, maybe in Lightroom, gone in and made these little sort of dots of solid matching tone in those places, right? They're not covering anything necessarily. They're relatively small. They're kind of pattern language looking. They become, part of the aesthetic of the image, but they do bring up ideas about retouching, about covering, about photography and the techniques of photography, and sort of how those work with beauty and self-image. Right, beautifully lit, beautifully shot. Oops, sorry, there's the dots are up here on the shoulder. And so again, right, we're making a bunch of pictures. How do they all come together? Right, we want to have these images be a series in some fashion, right? Thematically, aesthetically, whatever it is, there's some kind of connection that runs through them. And this project, by the way, was something that really came as we were doing this work, right? So they were making pictures, showing pictures, talking about pictures, and we hit a point where they were like, yeah, and I tried this thing, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's so good, right? Like that definitely, like, pursue that aspect of it, right? And that may not come on the first week, right? So it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be, you will need to react quickly and hit the ground running. More sort of like more beauty language feeling fashion-y photography, right? Very studio, very lit, right? If this is something that you want to do, right, think about, okay, how am I going to do this with the things that are available to me, right? Who am I going to use? Where am I going to shoot? How am I going to light it, right? Is it possible? It's possible. Is it easy? It is not. Wasn't easy then, not easy now. These were great. These were these sort of food photographs using sort of like food that you recognize, but then like using the wrong technology to kind of interact with it or consume it. So this can opener on the orange peel, right? Like great. So complementary colors, man. Color scheme is great. Styling is great. Framing is good, right? Eating blueberries with a knife and fork, completely bonkers. Right, the like little splatter down there totally makes it really nice. Right, tweezering out strawberry seeds, right? Like it was a whole series. It was really good. Loved that work. This was a project that this woman did looking at sort of more Orthodox Jewish culture. So, you know, sort of going to events, right? So, right, we've got, I guess it's only that one picture. Picture from, you know, like big event. You had like, you know, women on one side, men on the other. You had dancing, like, you know, event hall, all of this stuff. And then she had a woman who was not as sort of like, you know, from as she's sort of portraying herself, right? But sort of enacting these cultural traditions and roles that she was interested in exploring. Right, again, like these great little moments, right? Like the ring on the finger, the jewelry, lighting the candles. This woman did a series looking at twins, right? Again, where you really need to have people locked down, right? If you're like, I want to do a thing on twins, you're like, do you know any twins? You're like, no. You're like, I don't know how that works then. So I think I only have a couple of these in here. I loved this picture because like it's like they're twins, but like the pose makes it totally seem like boyfriends. Like that was kind of great. This was a series on something that the photographer had been interested in over the whole semester, looking at sort of like body image, body positivity, sort of like you know, reaction to fat shaming, you know, sort of queer bodies, and also if there's, you know, if there's a subject that you're interested that you want to work on that you're not as familiar with, like, okay, who else is out making work in this space, right? Like, holler at me. Like, I mean, maybe I don't know either, but I'm sure between the two of us, we can find somebody. This was actually, I pointed him out to a guy, Mickey Alioso, who graduated from FIT, I don't know, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, is now at the Yale School of Art, becoming badass, but had done a lot of really great sort of like bare photography stuff, right? Not this style, not this aesthetic, but you know, like being able to connect to those images was something that I think was super, super helpful. And these were fantastic. These were actually shot. I think it looks like a studio, but I think they actually shot them at their house. This is another sort of more conceptual fashion series, right? So this was something where they really wanted to play with lighting and see what they could do with it, right? So there wasn't a like concept, you know, where they're like, oh, it's about the moon, right? Like, no, that was not what was going on. They were sort of like interested in sort of like the traditional religious aesthetic of the halo, interested in how could I do that with lighting, what would be ways that we could explore that, how could we make it happen, and, you know, then how can I make a series out of it, right? So they had, you know, different colors, different models, different poses. I really like this one. Again, complementary colors in orange and blue. This was photographs looking at sort of black hair and like, you know, I want to say like the prep, but like sort of the accessories that are not the things that you're wearing when you actually are going out of the house. Yeah, so she had some with like do-rag. She had, curlers. She had the thing that I don't know the name of. It's like the big silk, looks like a chef's hat you put on your head so you don't scrape your hair. Obviously not something that I run into very often. But yeah, beautiful, right? Styled really well, like found some fabrics, like made these backdrops, like simple lighting, great pictures, good color palette, and they all kind of hang together, right? You have this light that's very sort of like central. You have a backdrop that feels consistent throughout, right? It's not the same backdrop. It's not the same colors. She's changing it every time. But the vibe of it, right, kind of feels the same, right? We're sort of like, we've got outfit in one color, background in another color, outfit in one color, background in another color, right? Yeah, good stuff. These were more sort of editorial portrait images, right? They're interesting because they're really unconventional compositions, right? Like having this lamp come out of the top of her head. Normally, I would be like, "Wow, that's bad. Don't do that." But I think it just sort of works. The balance of these plants in the foreground, this thing that feels sort of like a lily, the way that relates into kind of like imagery of the divine. Jesus in the background. We've got like this great light streaking across the wall. Right, again, beautiful use of light, like really nice portraits. Right, beautiful window light, getting that background there, just really nice portrait series. This photographer wanted to make something that felt more cinematic, right? They, like, I know many of you have, sort of like seen Crudson and been like, whoa, man, I want $40,000 and a crew of 15 people and a budget and I'll go do it. And so they were trying to figure out, well, what can I make that is cinematic, that has that color palette, but that doesn't require me to have like a staff. And so they made these images, right? These sort of start to feel like they have a narrative. The color is fantastic. Right? There's these like sort of like Crudson, right? There's these like little strange moments, right? Where like, who's the kid? Why does he have a gun? Who's he pointing it at? Don't get yourself fucking killed in the suburbs, people. Right? Again, like just beautiful. I'm being bothered by a fly. It's like I'm in my fucking pants. Good. Very good. And again, a lot of this was figuring out the images, storyboarding the images, trying to figure out what went where, right? We get 5 selects every week. So that means you have enough to edit down from, so you can ditch the ones that don't work as well, improve the ones that do. Also, like, just really gorgeous pictures. These were a set of diptychs, right? So making images of people and sort of things. The things are sort of evoking memories, cultural memories, memories of like either immigration or otherness in some way, and they were presented as sort of a pair of images. It's like the person and then a closer up picture of like things. Right, these things are important to them, and they're beautiful, right? Like the light, the framing, the composition, right, on both of the images, really, really lovely. Concept was good, execution was good, really nice work. And a variety of ways of doing it, right? It's not the same, just like headshot every single time, right? They've made some really sensitive, interesting environmental portraiture, right? That is not photojournalist, right? It's not documentary in a fly on the wall kind of way, but great portrait, and taking the two of them together starts to give us a greater sense of who the folks are. So that is those are some examples of what people have done previously. Again, don't go copy somebody. That would be dumb. But just so that you have a sense of what can be done, what is out there, what are the possibilities. whatever it is that you are interested in photography doing. If there's something you want to explore that you haven't done, if there's something that you're really interested in that you want to push farther on, right? I mean, we had some projects where somebody just like really wanted to master a way of doing lighting, and the project grew out of that. We had other ones where people started out with an idea, right? Like an idea of sort of this like insecurity with their physical appearance, right? And that developed and became something that had a more sort of conceptual manifestation, right? It ended up looking more like conceptual art, but came out of this sort of internal, kind of like interrogation, wondering sort of prompt from within. That sounds silly. Right, so whatever it is that you are interested in doing, get cracking. B, fill out that proposal so that you can figure out how it's actually going to work, because that part is super important. If you can't make it work, you might as well not try it. I mean, or that's not true. If you can't make it work, then whatever your great idea is pointless, right? So figure out a way to make it happen and then go do it. So yeah, that's it. Fill that out. Holler at me if you have any questions. Let me know if there's anything that I can help you with. If you're looking for other people that might be doing something interesting in a similar vein, addressing a similar issue, I can point you in a direction and go get yourself some photographs made.